back to Health Talk here on AETV Live. It's still your host, Ogaga Ekama, and the conversation is still on self-care. And Nurse Juanita Komema is very much around. So let's pick up from where we stopped in the last episode, talking about self-care in relation to women preventive care timeline. You've told us what that is. If you missed it, please refer back to that episode. And you've given us the timeline up to the 20s, where you talked about breast examination, STI test, cervical screening, hepatitis B, vaccination or tests, and all of that. Then you talked about mammogrammy as well. So now from the 30s, what is expected?
Okay. So from your 30s, you ought to have started checking your blood pressure, checking your blood sugar level, your blood cholesterol level as well. Especially if you come from a lineage where hypertension or diabetes is prevalent in. So from your 30s, you ought to start keep check of your blood pressure, your blood sugar level, your blood cholesterol level. And then those other things that you spoke about in your 20s, which is cervical screening and mammogrammy, once every 3 years, from your 30s to your 50s, once every 3 years.
Okay. Then the 50s, what happens in the 50s?
Okay. So from your 50s to your 60s, you have to do a colon scan to rule out cancer of the colon.
Okay.
Yes. Then also a bone density scan to rule out arthritis. Now, these two things are important. So in case you have the cancer of the colon, it can be detected on time and removed on time. Then also the bone density test also determines if you are prone to having arthritis. So your doctor will advise you on activities you should carry out and activities you should stop. If you are a very active person, there are some activities that you need to stop to prevent degeneration of bone matters.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now the 30s, you talked about the mammogrammy. It has to keep reoccurring. The cervical screening as well, which should be occurring every 3 years.
Yeah.
Then you talked about the blood pressure and blood sugar
and blood cholesterol level.
So for someone that has, in a situation where someone has a family history where diabetes and high blood sugar and all of that, and maybe the blood pressure, also hypertension is in the family lineage, should the person have to wait till their 30s, or there's an advice to start earlier if you have any of this in your family?
Yeah, it's actually advised to start earlier. You can start in your 20s. There's something called juvenile diabetes.
Okay.
Yeah, it occurs in your early age, like from your teens.
Wow.
You can see a 12-year-old having diabetes. It's called juvenile diabetes and it's genetic. So, yeah. So from your 20s, you can start doing these blood pressure tests, blood sugar level tests, and blood cholesterol tests. So you can start tackling the problem from an early age so it does not affect you in your old age.
Okay. Now, for the 50s, you talked about colon screening.
Yeah.
So this is for ladies majorly, but guys have just a little bit for male. Male have screening. So
yeah, male. This colon screening, it applies to both male and female, but we're talking about female now.
Yes. Then the bone density, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So in a situation, how can one tell that arthritis is imminent with this bone density test? Is it that the bone density increases or it reduces?
It reduces.
Okay, it reduces.
Yes.
So can it be prevented if it's detected early?
If it's detected early, it can be prevented, yes, by reducing some physical activities.
Okay.
Yes, then cutting down on some of the foods that you eat, because some of the causes of arthritis has to do with the food that we eat. Yes, deposits of fatty acids on the bone matter. Yes, so cutting down on physical activities, cutting down on food can easily prevent further degeneration of bone matter.
Okay, what you eat. Okay, so after the 50s, any other timeline, and what should be done in the 60s, 70s, or?
From your 50s to your 60s, I talked about the colon screening and the rest. So from your 50s, you ought to stop cervical screening and mammogram screening because of the radiation from the mammogram. You know, as you age, your your body system degenerates. Let me use that word, degenerate. So you're not as agile and your antibodies are not as functional as when you were still in your youth. So those series of tests should be cut down and reduced.
Because of the radiation exposure.
Yes, the exposure of radiation.
Okay. All right. So you didn't talk about weight in any of this part. So is there a part of, especially in the physical
self-care,
watching your weight and the effect it could have on, especially this women preventive care timeline, weight and all of that? Because you talked about dieting, eating when we're talking in detail on the bone density test.
Okay, so a healthy adult weight is from 70 to 75. If you are weighing above 75, you are reclining to the unhealthy part of life. So being overweight can also affect bone density, like I talked about. So it can also cause degeneration, cause arthritis as well. So part of physical self-care has to be healthy weight.
Okay.
Yes.
So now you made a statement, and when I put it side by side with once upon a time I had a dietitian. So which is a more effective way to talk about healthy weight? Is it just using the weight? Because when you weigh more than 70, I believe they are talking in kilograms, in kg.
In kg.
Is it just the weight or the BMI, body mass index? Because now somebody might weigh 70 and their height, maybe the person might be 7 feet plus. And when you do the BMI, it might be less than. So which is?
Okay, I think BMI is a more accurate method. Yeah.